everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Popcorn Square. I am here, Buttons, with my co-hosts,
Neff and Kage.
All right, today we're going to be talking about stunt doubles, y'all. Okay, so specifically, Fall Guy, all right? So this movie just came out, and I am the only one in our group here so far that has seen it, and we're just going to kind of go over what the movie was about, and a little bit about, the budget and box office so far for it, and what type of movie this is, and see if you guys would be interested in seeing it as well.
Oh, yeah.
This is directed by David Leitch, and let me just say, if you really like those practical stunt effects and those guys, falling off of stuff and the explosions and all that, that's what this movie is, guys. This is not one of those movies where it's gonna be a whole lot more substance other than, a bunch of really cool special effects. And even at the beginning of the movie, you have the director and you have Ryan Gosling sitting down and saying, hey, this is our love story to these stunt doubles. Because they're kind of the unsung heroes in these action movies that have a lot of these practical effects, because they're the ones out there putting themselves in danger to entertain you. So, and David Leitch actually he started out as a stunt double.
Wow.
So, this is one of those things where he's like, hey, we wanted to just kind of, give this story of kind of like what would happen if, this stunt double is kind of put into this role where now he's having to, it's real kind of thing. And one of the things I will say is the storyline, you guys, it does have a high emphasis on the romance angle that's going on between Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt's character in the movie. And so some of it, if you're not into that whole kind of romantic comedy angle in movies, probably going to want to steer clear, because that is a good 50% of this movie is that angle. The other 50% is blowing stuff up and people falling off and fight scenes and like I said, the real more nitty gritty practical effects that you see in movies. So definitely would say it's set up to look like this big blockbuster movie is going on, and then you have Ryan Gosling, who's the stunt man for a famous actor, right? And so he goes in there and does all the really cool stuff that you would see in a movie. And in the meantime, he's had this relationship going on with the director. So that's the meat and potatoes of what the story is. And I will say that I enjoyed it. I gave it a solid 7 out of 10. I thought, the story there was a couple slow parts, but for the most part, it pulls you through, and there's plenty of action in there for those people who like to see the fight scenes and the cool special effects. It's not a lot of CG, which is nice. So, for people who are like, oh man, every time I turn around and they do something, it's all CG and you can tell. And so there is a little bit, but most of it is practical effects. Like I said, this is very much kind of a love story to the stunt community.
Right.
And so there's some really cool scenes in there that I enjoy. And anybody who really likes those kind of action movies, I definitely would recommend seeing it in theaters for that big screen experience, because it just looks really cool.
What was your favorite scene, Buttons?
So there's a scene towards the end where they're basically firing off a lot of pyrotechnics, and it's interesting because you just see basically it's like a chase scene,
Wow.
right? So there's got all the vehicles,
Like
and
the Doof Warrior.
yeah, kind of, but it kind of feels a little bit Mad Max in a sense, because you've got the big dunes, and it's all in sand, and they're like on these
fire.
Yeah, and like I said, every so often you're like going and there's another explosion, right? And it's pretty cool in that sense, because also all of the other stunt team members, like the guy who does all the pyrotechnics and the guy who does all the, like coordinates this effect and that effect, like, all right, launch the vehicle, right? And it's like, oh yeah, here it goes. And it's like, So it's very interesting. Visually, there's a lot going on, so you got to pay attention to it the whole time. It really grabs your attention. So that scene is probably one of my favorite scenes from the movie.
Awesome. Do you really recommend this for our viewers? Like, you think this is a must-watch in theater, or do you think it's a stream?
So I feel like it's worth seeing in theater. I mean, if you have to stream it, by all means, at least watch the movie, give it a chance. And because for me, watching it on the big screen, I enjoyed it a little bit more just because of all of the effects that go into it. It feels more epic when it's on the big screen, but certainly you wouldn't really lose too much quality if you needed to watch this at home and stream it on, for yourself. But again, it's not a serious film. This is a comedy, guys. There's no realism in it. It's actually a movie within a movie. Because again, like I said, it's about a stunt man who's working on another movie, as a stunt double. So, it's got kind of the hokiness where it kind of makes fun of itself in that sense, because you're like, oh yeah, here's all these actors and different people running around behind scenes, and they're setting up, and you have a director, so they're like, all right, here's what's going to happen, and so you get to kind of from the perspective of, if you had ever worked on a big production like this, you're seeing the behind the scenes life that takes place, and so that's an interesting angle for a movie.
Interesting. And for anybody that's still kind of wondering, hey, should I go watch this? Buttons put her stamp of approval on the film. IMDb gives it a 7.3 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes gives it an 82% out of 100. And Metacritic gives it a 73 out of 100. So I think she is spot on with her rating there. It also says, as far as Google users' information is concerned, 92% of the people that watched this film did enjoy the film. Let's talk a little bit more about the marketing. Buttons, I know you had some speculation on the marketing. You felt like they put a lot of marketing money into this film. What do you think? And do you think that's actually going to work for them? And then we'll move on to the box office and budget, and then we'll get some thoughts from Kage.
Yeah, so for the marketing in this film, I think they really we're pushing it very hard. And it's interesting because you have these studios who throw a lot of money behind this. And when we talk about the budget, you'll kind of see my point, that you got two big names, right? You've got Emily Blunt and you've got Ryan Gosling. And last year, their movies that they did, which would have been Oppenheimer and Barbie, collectively, you're talking over $2 billion in box office budget. So I think that's why the marketing for this movie were kind of pushing hard. They're like, hey, don't you remember just last year when you guys all went to go see these movies? Come see this movie. It's got both of them in it, And I think that was kind of their argument. It was like, hey, you really enjoyed the hell out of these movies. Come watch this movie. And I think that was kind of the push behind trying to reclaim some of those numbers by reminding the audience, like, hey, don't you remember, these actors are going to be in this new movie. You really enjoyed those ones. Come out and see these.
Emily
Blunt was in Oppenheimer, okay, and Ryan Gosling was in Barbie.
Yeah, okay. I knew Ryan Gosling was in Barbie. I knew that one. Okay.
Yeah, but Emily Blunt was in Oppenheimer. So with that being said, it looked like a good time whenever you're watching the previews for this. I will say that the story was a little bit twisted in what they showed in the previews to what the actual story is. And I won't go too far into detail with what it is, but again, you have the stunt guy. He shows up. They're like, hey, something's up with our star, right? Because he's the stunt double for the movie star. And he goes off, and all of a sudden people are trying to kill him, and he's trying to figure out what's going on. That's kind of the plot line of it. At the same time, the other half of it is he's trying to win over Emily Blunt as the romantic interest. So half of the movie is what's going on with this star, why are they all of a sudden trying to kill the stunt double? And the other half of it is while all these things are happening, he's like, Emily Blunt, I love you, and she's all like, nah, I don't love you. And he's like, but I love you. So that's kind of the storyline that runs parallel. So it's definitely something that, guys, if you're averse to the chick flicks, but you got a girlfriend and she wants to go see a movie, take him to Fall Guy, because at least you get to see some stuff explode while she gets her love story.
It's not a straight chick flick. There's enough action there to
and
covers the
comedy
bases.
to really hit.
It can appeal to both genders.
Correct. And I think that's what they set it up for, was kind of like a movie that both the guys, if they got to take their girl to go see a love story, here you go. But there's also some really cool, fight scenes and explosions.
Let me add something. I'll pass the ball to you, Kage. So, and I want to hear what you think about this. It's going to go straight into what you think about it. Okay. So, budget for this is between 125 million and 150 million. Let's just say 130 million. That's just production. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say they put at least 80 to 100 in marketing. What do you think, Buttons? Based off the marketing you saw, would you say 80 million?
For the marketing that I saw for this, I don't know if I would say 80, but at least 50. Because, you're going to rely a little bit more now on the technology to do the work for you, social media and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So, but I would say, as far as them pushing, like both Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling were on SNL to promote this.
Both A-listers.
Yeah, so, and that's what I'm saying. So you got a lot of pull of them trying to throw their names out there and, big splashy
I like
picture.
how you really pointed at the fact that they both had, I guess, arguably you could say billion-dollar films
last year.
Last year. That was a good point, and I didn't think about that, but that is true. We know they were in those big films, but, there's people that are in big films, but they don't do $1 billion.
Well,
and we've also talked about how now I think 800 million is the new billion.
Well, and obviously, the other thing you got to take into consideration is production of these films.
Correct.
They didn't know that those films were going to do as great as they were when they signed on for this one, because those ones were already finished filming.
Correct.
They would have picked up this project before they saw how great both of those movies did.
Right.
So I think, to your point, Neff, is that, maybe the budget for marketing might have increased simply due to the popularity of the two previous movies that those actors worked on.
Makes sense. And this also came out on May 3rd. So that could also be a reason that we saw Tarot kind of underperform there. I feel like if Fall Guy didn't come out, we might be talking about Tarot at 25 million right now. Possibly, if it was really the only thing that came out. But we've seen that a lot this month. You see those action romantic comedies or like action films, and then you have that horror film. It's going to happen again towards the end of the month. I don't know if it's a horror film, but there's definitely going to be, I think it's Furiosa and then something else that's like completely different genre up against it. I can't remember. We have to go back and look at the list, but it's definitely that dynamic. Or it might have been Imaginary Friend.
Yeah.
And Furiosa on the same. Or Garfield, one of them, but I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Kage, what do you think about all this? And then what do you think about the marketing budget? And then we'll go into the box office and we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I think I feel like I agree with Buttons on the marketing aspect, because I did see some trailers here and there, and with social media, my friends post movie trailers. I'm on YouTube a lot. I follow a lot of movie YouTubers out there. So I have heard about it, and I feel like that's going to help, with a lot of movies of all genres nowadays. All you got to do as a movie company for marketing is throw your thing on YouTube. It will gain traction, I promise you. Between that and Twitter, or X as we're calling it now, it's going to get traction. But yeah, that was a great point to make too, Buttons, about, two actors on this were on two of the biggest, if not the biggest movies of last year. Oh yeah. Oppenheimer and Barbie.
I believe they were the bigger box
and had
office.
significant roles in those.
That.
Did Ryan Gosling win an Academy Award? Or is he nominated?
I think they were nominations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because just simply by putting them in the film, that is marketing.
Right.
You're going to the theater to see these two stars like together, and see them just do something amazing. Yeah, box office wise,
So box office, we're sitting at
one
76.5 million, sir.
okay
76.5 million, and we got Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes out right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that because, I was actually disappointed. So I saw this movie opening weekend, and I remember afterwards I was like, man, this was a pretty solid movie. I feel like it's going to do well. And then it fell short. I guess they had predicted a $30 million opening weekend. It did 28.5. Now, in the grand scheme of things, is that the worst opening ever? No, it certainly is not the worst. But I did see some articles out there that were just like, man, look at all these huge budget movies, which, as Neff mentioned, the production budget was somewhere around 100 to 120, I think you said.
like 125 to 150 mil
Okay.
ballpark.
Right. So we're looking at that amount of money now. It's sitting at under 80 million for. It's been out now for 2 weeks. We're looking, it's not looking good. But basically, I saw a lot of these articles talking about these action comedy movies not really performing well since like 2010. Now, David Leitch, he's done some big name movies. I mean, he's done just prior to this would have been Bullet Train in 2022, and I know both Neff and I discussed when Bullet Train came out that it was a solid movie. It was a solid story. As far as the realism, again, it's not a realistic movie there either. It's a comedy, guys. It's not based in realism the way they shot it, and just some of the different scenes were just really cool action scenes, and you got to enjoy that part of it. It's like when you watch movies Jackie Chan did. Okay, they're not realistic, all right? Yes, it's kung fu martial arts kind of things, but no, there's no way that the guy's gonna do one kick jump and it's gonna launch him 20 feet into the air. No, those are those are effects, guys.
Anybody remember Last Action Hero? Anybody?
Yes, Last
That's
Action
what,
Hero.
that's what this reminds me of.
But he also did Deadpool 2. He also did Atomic Blonde. He also did what was the other one we were talking about before Deadpool?
Man, shoot, I know he's on Nobody. I know he did that. I don't know if he
Yeah.
directed Nobody, but he might have been a
Hobbs
producer on
and Shaw,
Nobody.
Hobbs
He
and
did
Shaw.
Hobbs and Shaw, Fast and
Right.
Furious spinoff
Yeah,
there.
so I mean he's got his
Niche.
yeah, his niche, his action, stunt, heavy into those kind of, stunt coordinated films, action films. But I think as far as the numbers go, is they're putting out these big production budgets that really they're going to have to look at scaling back. Now, we talked about some of the other ones that go straight to streaming. And so you could say like Six Underground, The Bodyguard, or not The Bodyguard, what was Old Guard, The Old Guard, those kind of movies where they're heavy action movies, and they're not mentioning what the budgets are on those, but people enjoy them. People are, watching these movies. And I think with this, I think you've got that whole, pay-per-view on demand that they're expecting that they're going to make up some of that budget that way, or even globally, that these other countries are going to be like, yeah, you know what, I'm going to pay to see, these kind of action movies. So maybe not looking at the domestic budget, but the international budget as well to recoup some of that money. And that might be why you got a heavy marketing push, because they're hoping that by pushing that marketing budget, it's going to make them some money to, overseas. And I know that, when we talk about what audience that this movie is going to appeal to, again, I mentioned it's geared, it's got that romance angle and it's got the action hero angle. So I really feel like this is a date night kind of movie. But it's got a comedy in it too. So I feel like anybody could sit down and watch this movie. And even because the rating on it, I believe, was PG-13. So even the kids, the preteens and that could go watch this movie and enjoy it without, parents having to worry too much about, oh, has it got a lot of graphic things in it or anything like that. I just thought it was an overall good time, kind of movie. Again, you're not getting a whole lot of substance on it. It's not based off of a true story, and it's not pushing any kind of political view, which is nice. You're not looking at it from that angle of having to listen to any woke messaging. So I thought, hey, go give it a shot, guys. It's a great movie. Neff, did you want to any thoughts on as far as what it's performing in the box office and what we might see here in the future?
So as far as the box office being at that 76 million, I think we could possibly see. Man, I think asking for 20 more would be a stretch here. I think maybe it gets hit at like 85 million, maybe 90 if it's lucky. Because like we said, we have competition coming out this week and a new movie at that competing with it. So I think that's going to kind of hurt it. But I think you might see it top out at about 85 to 90. So it's not going to make money, guys. $150 million budget, even if we're being conservative, 130 million, you want to see that 3x there. So, yeah, it's not going to do it.
I feel like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Right.
We needed more of the in there. We're going for the record of longest name. But anyway, shout out to Gentlemanly Warfare. But I feel like that could arguably be the biggest movie of this month.
Oh, Planet of the Apes.
I really feel like, because it has a long-standing legacy.
Right.
You got the movies in the 70s, then you got the remake that started in the early 2000s, and it's still going. We're on movie 4 right now. And we'll talk about this in a later podcast, but I'm ready to say goodbye to the apes.
Yeah.
You're beating it to the ground. It's like apes rose up and everything. So we'll see if this is the end of the story and how they do. But all movies that are coming out this month, I feel like, are competing with that. And then, of course, in my opinion, Furiosa is going to be kind of the wild card. You know what I mean? Both different, very, very different movies. Well, that's a unique thing. I feel like in everything that we've discussed for this month. Between Tarot, the Fall Guy, it's very different. It's just bombastic. It's over the top. You know what I mean? So we'll see how that goes.
Well, let me ask you this then, because you're talking about two movies that arguably neither one of them are going to have any kind of love interest storyline or romantic storyline at all. And you look at this movie, which is also an action movie, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
So you've got the action angle. Do you think audience members, when they're looking at the movies that they're going to go see in theater, do you think it hurts to have a romance angle to the story in an action film? Like, should they just stop making these romantic action comedy movies? Or is it... Because, we just want to go watch an action movie if we want to see an action movie. We just want Die Hard. That's it. Just the guy, and he's fighting against evil, and it's, whatever situation, and stuff blows up. I mean, no romance. Just give me the action story by itself.
I'm going to say no. Because here's the thing. I don't typically go, me personally, I don't go to the theater for rom-coms. But at the same time, if you introduce a romance into a story and you do it right, you don't lean too far into it. You can still tell a great story, have action, have effects, have scary moments, have love moments, whatever. You can do it if you do it right. They do it all the time in gaming. You have really good stories. Video games have a lot of action. Okay, you're supposed to be a gamer. You're in that story. You're consuming that story. You're a part of that story, and I feel like you can absolutely keep the romance aspect in it if you do it right. You know what I mean? But if it's like constantly butterflies and they're the woman's flashing their eyes, if it's constantly that, it's like you got to have balance. You know what I mean? The action aspect, the comedy aspect, I think that will certainly bring balance. That'll, in terms of because you got the people, because it depends on what you're going there for. Are you going there for the actors? Are you going there for the story? Are you going there for the romance? Because if you're going there solely for the romance aspect, I think you would have a good time with the Fall Guys, and the action is to kind of make it easier on bringing your husband, you know what I mean, your boyfriend, whatever. But yeah, I don't think you have to get rid of that altogether in films, because now what you're talking about is you're getting rid of an entire genre, and we can't have that. We like that. I think that would hurt cinema as a whole, because you can't just axe you can't do that. You can't axe an entire genre, because now you alienate this huge amount of audience. You know what I mean?
The reason why I bring that up is because, as you mentioned, about how they introduce that romance angle into movies. Some of the other movies that, are action with a little bit of romance in them, the ones that come to mind that aren't comedies anyway, would be like James Bond. James Bond always has a love interest. There's always that romance angle. It's not usually a big part of the story.
Yeah.
It's more like, oh, hello, agent such and such, or, oh, hello, you potentially you're going to stab me in my back later, but let's still sleep together. Like,
it's like a dynamic within the bigger scheme.
Right. And so James Bond, nobody's sitting there going, oh yeah, that's a romance movie. They're sitting there going like, no, that's an action movie. It has a little bit of romance in it. And I think, Kage, that's kind of what you're trying to say, is that you don't want it to be every 5 seconds they're batting eyelashes at each other and going, let me slip into something more comfortable over here. And then it's another, romance scene of just that. And
because now we're not talking about, all right, it might make people mad here, but like, like if you go too far in that direction, this isn't on cinema. This is on Lifetime. Let's call it what it is. Like if you want to watch a romance, go flip on Hallmark TV or Lifetime, and you'll find what you want right there. You know what I mean? But no, like I am definitely, even though it's not my go-to genre, I still respect it. Mm-hmm. And for the sake of cinema, I feel like the cinema is better for it. We can't get rid of romance movies. We can't just get rid of action movies or horror movies. Like we need something for everybody, because that's what, as we always say, puts butts in seats. You have to have something for everyone.
But to your point, like you said, you have things like Hallmark and Lifetime Channel, and that's where their audience is. I personally, the last movie I can think of that was like a heavy hardcore romance movie was like Crazy Rich Asians, and that one really only became popular because it was, it was a romance movie, but it was also a comedy, and it was a very good movie. If anybody hasn't seen that movie and you like comedy, romantic comedies, that's a great movie. Very well done.
So outside of both the points you guys made, do you still feel like it appeals to, is it just gender oriented, or do you think it appeals to older or younger audiences?
So
specifically, what do you guys think about that?
I think all ages.
So you think teenagers would like this?
No.
Buttons?
No?
No. I don't think that the teenagers would enjoy the romance angle. I think they would enjoy the explosions. They would enjoy the stunts. But as far as so let's just be honest here. This is not teenagers in love. These are adults. These are 40,
So it's okay. So they can't relate to it.
It's a different type of romance. It's not young puppy love kind of thing. Like, oh, I fell in love with the high school cheerleader, and she doesn't know I exist, and so I'm going to do something really cool and get her attention. And now we're going to have this fun, epic romance that'll probably fizzle out when we go to college anyway. Like, it's not that kind of movie. I think that's what teenagers would be interested in seeing, something like that, versus, and maybe even like young 20s, versus this is kind of like, even with the music choices that they made as far as within the movie, because I mean that's going to date your movie right there. You know, you watch Guardians of the Galaxy, all those songs and stuff that they use are from like late 70s to like 80s, right? Like all that music falls within that genre. And so for anybody who grew up listening to that music, they're going to have a good time. They're going to be like, woohoo, you know, like these are songs I remember hearing, and now they're set to these cool action sequences. So Fall Guy kind of does the same thing. It's got a couple of songs in there, you know, 80s, 90s kind of mix. And they throw it out there and they say, hey, for the 40-year-old audience, like 30 to 40, you know, 5 maybe, like you're going to enjoy this movie. This is going to be an adult movie. It's got, you know, tons of really cool, fun action scenes in it. Teenagers are still going to enjoy the action sequence parts of it. They're going to get the humor. They're going to understand what's going on. It's not overly sexualized. I mean, yeah, Ryan Gosling takes off his shirt a couple of times, so there's that in there for the girls. But but I mean, there's nothing for the guys sexually for that.
Screw it, I'm boycotting it. I'm over
Sorry, nobody's
Kage's
watching.
like 2 thumbs down.
it. Yeah,
Two thumbs down.
Emily Blunt's pretty, but
I was like,
if
I'm sorry, it's not Fast and Furious. Nobody's, you know, there's not that car scene with all the women walking around in their mini skirts and
But
flashing their
Emily
phones.
Right
Blunt
before
is
every
a
race.
very
Yeah,
beautiful woman.
exactly.
I'm gonna throw that out there, but equality. All right, if you're gonna show,
Or keeping it fair,
yeah,
equality.
keep it fair. That's what I mean. That's what
Let's keep it fair here.
that's what I meant.
There you go.
I want to point out something. I know it's not the same genre of movie, but as we're talking about, you know, romantic comedies, rom-coms, like I think about movies that kind of were in that vein that I enjoyed. Like, for me, I think of 50 First Dates. I really like that one.
Yeah, that one's pure romantic comedy.
I think that is a perfect blend of comedy and romance, because even my
Seeing the softer side of Kage.
yeah, here we go. Yeah, because like it was Adam Sandler in the 90s was in his prime. You know, you had Big Daddy, you had Happy Gilmore, you had
Billy Madison.
you had Little Nicky. Get in the flask. But you like
I'm from the deep south. Why is that funny?
yes. Play Chicago backwards. But yeah, like I love old Adam Sandler movies, and this was kind of his movies back then always had a comedic side as well as a romantic side, and I was able to enjoy it and not feel alienated. Like if you don't have somebody and you're watching these
It
movies,
doesn't look weird that you're sitting there in the audience watching a chick flick is basically what you're saying?
yes. I can't tell you if I saw this movie in theaters. I don't remember if I did or not, but I've seen it many times. He has the little penguin with the suit, the button shirt on. He puts it in the middle of the road
That's
because he's
50
trying.
First Dates,
Well, yeah,
yeah.
and he's trying to get the chick, and she just drives right over him.
Yeah, she had
right?
dropped
And it
something
goes-
in her
he
car,
goes,
so she's not even looking
goes-
at the road.
"You shit yourself?" Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
You know, but
It's like I gave a penguin
you know-
a bath, which I'm gonna have to do again tomorrow.
yeah, and the walrus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. So, so I mean, like those movies I enjoy, and then even with the sappy ending, and it's just like, aw, you know what I mean? He makes her fall in love with him every single day. I was just like,
Wouldn't you want to fall in love with that every single day? And he's like, no, she sings like shit.
yeah, but see that's what I mean is this very laughter, this very discussion talks about that thing that needs to be in those romantic comedies. You need to have balance. If you're
Right.
whether it's action is the thing you're coupling it with, or it's drama, or
pure joke.
or
There's-
pure
there's a-
comedy,
there's
whatever.
some really
there
good,
has to be
moments.
there has to be a balance, because if you go
Yeah.
any one way, well, now I'm just gonna call it an action movie with a little bit
one
of.
of the other great scenes in this movie, because we were talking about that, it's not really an action scene. It's actually more just a comedic scene, and they kind of started to drag it out a little bit too much. But the first little few minutes of it was really great, which is she's the director. And again, he's trying to win her back, his character. And so she's sitting there and she's like, all right, well, they're shooting a scene in the movie and he gets lit on fire. And then they have, he's in like a harness or whatever, because he gets thrown against this huge prop rock or thing or whatever. And he like gets slammed against it and falls down, and then they rush to go put him out, because he's on fire still. And he's sitting there, he'd just been thrown against the wall, and she's all like, hey, so let me tell you a little bit about the backstory here of what's going on in the movie, because I know you haven't read the script. And basically the entire time that she's talking to him, and all the other crew members and the audience, they're all present, all the other stunt people and actors and stuff, they're all there listening. And she's on like a megaphone speaking to him from across the set. And she's all like, yeah, so we have this is what's going on, between our heroine and our hero. And it's basically their story, like outside of the movie, what's happening in their relationship. And everybody's just kind of sitting there like listening to this conversation that she should be having in private with him. And they're on a sound stage and everything. And she's like, all right, let's roll it again. And so they light him back on fire and throw him against the wall again. And then she's like, hey, do you think, if our heroine had XYZ, what do you think? And he's like, oh, get him a bullhorn. And then, so then they're having the conversation on the bullhorns, and the other actors who are in like these costumes are just standing there, like as they're having this conversation on the sound stage. And then she's like, all right, one more time, and then light him back on fire and throw him against the wall. And, so after, it kind of insinuates that this happens several times, where he's constantly getting lit on fire and thrown against this wall. And these are real things that are happening. Yes, it's in a controlled environment, but still, he's like, hey, this does actually kind of hurt still. like I keep getting thrown against the wall here. But it was funny in that respect.
Alrighty, guys. Well, I think that's going to do it for our episode on the Fall Guy here, titled Stunt Double. Buttons has given it her stamp of approval, and the ratings do look good. So, if you're interested in this film, kind of on edge about it, go watch it in theater. I think it'd be worth it from what it sounds like. So I think that's going to do it for this episode, guys. Like, subscribe, comment, ring the bell for notifications, share with a friend, and join us on the next episode of the Popcorn Square podcast. I am Neff signing off with
Kage.
And Buttons.
Be safe.